Hello, patrons, and welcome to this artistic critique that I've decided to do monthly just for my Patreon members. And this month's the artist I chose was Belle Jackson. Thank you so much. You provided me with a beautiful reference image and the permission to use your painting to do a critique that I think will not only help you, but other artists who might have some of the same issues or challenges, or just want some more direction about where to take your painting. So let's get started with this. Hello, patrons. I am doing something today that I have suggested and I think it's going to be great for all of the patrons in our group. Now, most of you guys already know that for you guys to share your work, you need to be on our Facebook Patreon page, which is Susan Jenkins Patreon group. Just find that group, my glasses, on Facebook, and then I will accept you. Just answer yes that you are a member of my Patreon page. And what I have suggested that a lot of you, or 3 of you actually, have given me permission to recreate one of your paintings. So what I'm doing, especially for my patrons, and I can't do it often, I'm thinking I may do it once a month, is if any of you guys want to submit a painting with the reference photo that you would like critiqued, I will try to choose one a month, as long as my life permits, and give a critique while I repaint it with some suggestions. And I thought that's not only going to help the person who did the painting, I think it will help everyone in just looking at some of the common things that maybe is across the board that you can do to improve your painting. So, and I'm not sure, I'll probably do some kind of a little drawing as to who it is. I'll try not to do the same person twice, something like that. And the first one that contacted me was Belle Jackson. So, hi Belle, and she submitted a lovely painting and a lovely reference photo. I'm going to show you the reference photo. I'll upload it on the computer, but here it is right here. Just gorgeous shadows casting across this road. The composition is beautiful, horizon line in the lower third. Lots of great things going on with that. Her painting is actually also very lovely. She's got the nice shadows. She's got a good representation of the road. Perspectively, things look really good. Her values look good, maybe a little dark, but those are some of the things that I'll discuss. And so, of course, to do this, I'd like you guys to give me your permission so that I can share it with everyone else. And she did. So this will be kind of fun. So what I'm going to do now, let me move this and I'll show you guys how I have set this up here. I already had a piece of UArt paper taped up here. I was going to start a different painting, but I decided to go ahead and approach this. So what I did is it was a 9 by 12 and 9 UArt paper. And I decided to just split it in half because the next painting I'm going to be doing is also going to be a wide format. So what I did is I covered it up with paper. A lot of times I'll work on the bottom part if I'm going to do this approach, because you don't want the pastel dust falling and getting all over your cleaner piece of paper down here. So I covered it up with a piece of, it's like glassine, sort of like that. And this way, I'll keep this safe while I'm doing the painting. So I'm going to get started and give some critiques as I go along. All right, here we go. All right, now I'm going to discuss this a little bit, and I hope this iPad screen doesn't give too much of a glare. But here again is the reference image. And when you look at it initially, if you squint your eyes, it has a lot of dark values in it. Okay, you've got, of course, the lightest light is going to be the sky. Squinting your eyes, you'll see in here is a really light value, maybe some clouds or just a distant bright sky back there, which is carried onto the ground with this shadow, probably the lightest part of the shadows in here. And of course, we got some light filtering through the trees here, not as light in value. Your darkest values, let me turn it so I can see it a bit, are definitely this area of the shadows of the tree at the base of the trees, and this area of the base of these trees. Now we know where the sun's coming from based on these shadows, okay? If the shadows are casting this way, we know the sun is behind them over here. We can see how the light is hitting these treetops here. We can see how the light is cascading through here and hitting these treetops. So it's very important to kind of analyze your photo. Where's my darkest darks? Where's my lightest lights? and where is my source of light. Now the next thing too is just to, what is exciting about this photograph, and obviously she realized that the shadows were very dramatic and beautiful, and she did a good job at that. It does create drama. She definitely did get her darkest darks where they belong and her lightest lights where they belong. So good job, that's awesome. Now I do believe these darks can be softened a little bit, and to show a little bit more exaggerated color to make it a little more exciting. A lot of times things can act as a barrier for your eye entering into the painting. We want the eye to go down that road, okay? And these shadows could be broken up a little bit more and not quite so dark in value. I know you did recreate it similar to what you see here, but there's actually different values within these shadows that could be emulated with blue and violets. You know, if you zoom really in on that, that's not as dark as you would think. Looks like I could see some purples and even magentas in there. And also same thing here with these darkest darks in the trees. It looks like a big blob, a mass, but we can see there are other colors in here, and we're going to try to make the photo more exciting. Often we paint exactly like we see the photo, and when we learn a few little rules, we can make our painting more exciting. Gosh, I just love this road, how it's just curving back through there. Okay, so let's get started with this, and I'm going to try to talk about something. I wanted to mention one other thing too here. These trees, it was a great job done on the fact that the trees are kind of sparse. You notice that? They don't have much foliage. But a suggestion that I'm going to make is, rather than keeping it sparse, we're going to paint in more of a mass and carve out the shapes, the negative holes or spaces. They're called sky holes. So I'll approach that when we get to it. But again, great job on this painting. There's just simple suggestions that I think can make it stronger, but it's really, really a good job on this. All right, so let's get started. Okay, now I am not sure what surface Belle used. Oh, it looks like it looks like it's UArt paper, so this will be a good apples to apples comparison here. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, and I don't think that Belle did this in hers, and you don't have to do this, but I like to get rid of that blank surface. And you've probably seen many of my videos. There's just so many different ways you can do what's called an underpainting. But for the purposes of this, I'm going to make it the most simple underpainting that you can do, which is basically just to tone your paper. And what I like to do is to often look at, now you could break out a color wheel and say, what's the complementary color to all these things in the scene here? But basically, I may have cut off the top of this, but basically I kind of look at the general colors that are in this. A lot of green, a lot of blue. Okay, so what is the least amount of color that you see in this? Okay, you could even say I see some purples, I see some blue shadows. So we're already over at the blue-green end of the color wheel. So of course the opposite of that would be orange, yellow, pink. But for the most part, what's the least color you see in this? I don't see, I see some red. Okay, I see some reds in here. I could do a warm underpainting. I could do an orange underpainting or yellow underpainting. Those happen to be some of my favorites. But just to be a little bit different, I see a little teeny something pink over here. It's kind of pinkish red, okay? So I'm just going to tone this and make that a beautiful, like, glowing base for this painting, okay? So that's basically how I made that decision. I don't see a lot of pink in this. Maybe, and you don't have to see any of that color. I've taken even a green, primary green painting or reference image, and I've toned it with a lime green, you know, and gone from there. So, you know, you don't have to hold fast to all of these rules, but that's kind of how I do sometimes. I'm like, you know what? There's not a lot of pink in that. So I found these are the Neocolor water soluble wax pastels. You don't have to use these. You can use, I know I use Inktense blocks sometimes. Sometimes I just use a pastel. I could literally just take this beautiful pink, bright pink pastel and just lightly, very lightly go over the surface, just like I'm going to do with this, okay? And then take either water or alcohol and do a wash like you're going to see me do this with. The reason I'm using these right now is because they happen to be sitting right here. I already had one broken up for another painting. These do happen to get very bright when you add water, and they don't take up as much tooth as a pastel. So I love to try to preserve the tooth so you have enough layering capability. So that's really all I'm going to do here. Now, you know what? I'm kind of just doing this ad lib as I'm going along here. But I think what I'm going to do is I might just do a general little sketch here and leave the sky a little bit lighter. I might get a little bit of that pink in there. Okay, so all I'm going to do here, I'm really just looking at shapes. This is a similar format to the thing. I'm not doing it exactly because it's not like I'm trying to do a portrait or anything like that. I see, here's my halfway point on my iPad. Sometimes this is a good reference for me. I draw and do compositions when I'm sketching like this according to the middle of the horizontal plane and the middle of the vertical division, I should say. And so I'm always looking at that. So this iPad makes it easy. I know where the middle is. It's right here. And I know the middle here because it's like kind of right in between there. So it kind of makes it easy. It becomes a habit where I know that that you just refer to all the time. So I see that my tree line in the middle, my middle here is about right here, okay? My middle here is about right here, okay? So close enough, right? It's a tree. All right, so if my middle here is about right here, I'm scumbling. Scumbling is just kind of back and forth, just little things. Remember, it's gonna look more painterly with less detail, okay? So again, I'm just getting in the general shapes. Where's my road end? My road ends, if that's the middle, it's about a quarter of the way, okay? So it's gonna be more like right here, okay? So I'm gonna come back here, and this is about where my road is, okay? Right about in here. I might make it a little higher than it is there. And where is it here? If this is the middle, it's not quite a quarter of the way in. I'm moving everything so much, okay? So if that's where it is, see, I've got it too far over here. It's actually, this is more of a quarter, it's gonna be more over here, all right? So my road's gonna be more like right in there, okay? And I know there's a little bit of shadows over here, or trees coming back here. Actually, you know what, I will do this. I've got another one that's a little kind of a blue here. This will just kind of help me quickly so I can sketch. I like to sketch with shapes. That's my favorite way to sketch. It's also a nice color for this road, okay? So we've got a road that's kind of here, and it's obviously smaller in the background. We've got a little curve that kind of comes this way, okay? And then it comes more like straight down like this. A little curve around a corner there, and then there's a little hill right here. And then where does the road, look how far that road comes. I know I'm probably out of the scene, but it comes way over to the side here, okay? So that's really where it goes. And then we've got, of course, a bunch of rocks here, but the road kind of comes in like right in here, okay? So there's our general idea for the road. So we just get a few little colors in here. Remember, it ends back in there. Okay, so now we've got our road. And now let me get in some of these. I'm going to use the pinks more for the darker values and the light blue for the, or the purpley blue, whatever it is, lavender, for the lighter values. Okay, so just getting in shapes. And again, I just like to go ahead, and I think it looks so much better when you do something sketchy like this rather than getting a pencil and drawing in, you know. All right, so if that's where my road is, we've got some dark trees kind of right in here. I know you probably can't see this. Right in here, kind of, there's some layers here. We've got this layer right here. We've got the mass and the layer of trees. We've got another little layer where some light is filtering in here. Then we've got that really far layer back there where that road is going. Okay, so let's get this layer of trees here. That's where that little shadowy area is. We're gonna have some green highlights right in here. Okay, so now this tree line comes kind of down right here. You see how I'm kind of measuring like that? All right, so now we've got some trees just coming up here. Again, I'm going to mask these in a little bit more, but I'll get an idea of where these are. And when I do the underpainting or when I add the water, this is probably going to drip all over the place, but that's okay. I've got my general shapes down here. I don't want to push my iPad totally off. All right, so again, some shapes of trees. We're going to carve in that blue sky in here, okay? We don't need to worry about that right now. And again, I've got, I'm going to do this real light. What other color do I have? I have a little pink here. This is lighter because this right here is a little bit lighter. Okay, but again, you could do the same thing after you do a tone the whole underpainting with pastels. I just thought I'd go ahead and make my sketch for myself here. All right, now we've got our grasses kind of all right in here. Okay, so this is going to just give us a base. I'm going to go ahead and go a little darker where I know the darkest darks are. This tree's kind of coming over here. We got darker down in here where this shadow's coming across. Darker right in here. This is a little lighter where the shadows are coming across. This is dark. We've got another dark layer level, I should say, kind of back there. All right, so let's play now. Let's go ahead and get in the tree shapes and a little bit of this pretty pink underpainting. All right, here we go. All I've got now is a glass of water, and I'm not sure how much. I hope this, if it does drip down behind this tape, whatever, I'll use that as an interesting underpainting. You know, a lot of the stuff is much more forgiving than you think, and often we get so, oh, I've got to have it just right, and you can just paint over something and it not have to be so fussy about it. Oh, I forgot to put my hair back. Let me do that real quick because you might not be able to see. All right, so here we go. I sure hope my hair wasn't in the way for all of that demo that I just did. I have now, of course, my paper towels. This is just to dab my brush when it gets too much water in it. And I've got, of course, a cup of water. Get my reference image up again. Okay, so these three things is all you need. Now, I've used alcohol before. You guys have probably seen me. The advantage of alcohol, I probably should be using it now, is it just dries faster. And I think it does behave a little differently. Sometimes I prefer it, but for this, I just had some water. So now, this is a large brush, you notice. I like to work with a large brush because it kind of keeps me from getting too fussy. And that's what you don't want to get too fussy too fast. So what I do is I just kind of dab it. I usually work top to bottom. Now, do you see that beautiful pinkish colors that you get there? I'm leaving a little bit of the sky holes here. The pink is going to act as the darker value, the dark pink. All right. And we're giving indications of leaves. We're not doing individual leaves, all right? So, and this is going to get covered up with pastel, but what does an underpainting do? It gives you some vibrant color underneath a lot of times. It gives you kind of a little roadmap as to where you're headed with your painting. And it also creates energy. I like that part of it. All right, let me just work a little bit here and you'll get the general idea. You don't have to have your, a lot of times we paint trees exactly like they are in the reference image. And of course, when you're first getting started and you're just learning the rules of art, and there is drawing involved, I call it drawing. You're not really drawing. There is the same concepts of drawing involved. You want to get a general correct placement. But once you learn kind of how trees are, you can get more creative and just have more fun instead of being so tedious about where every branch is. Now, one thing I do recommend, I keep saying I want to do a video on something called the Fibonacci sequence. It is a general rule or a pattern that nature follows. I should hold this up so you can see how I'm dipping this. Let me move my water. That nature seems to follow. And tree branches, the way trees grow and tree branches is one of those things. And once you learn how it works, it makes it a lot easier to kind of draw tree branches. They just have a kind of a little unique pattern. Now you can kind of see how that lighter blue, and I'm dabbing this because I don't want this to drip everywhere. I like the drips, but sometimes, see, there goes some and they're just fine. But sometimes I don't want to get too crazy with them. So once you learn that the rules, the Fibonacci, I think that road goes way back there, so let me just pull this up a little bit. Once you learn that Fibonacci sequence and the rules, you really can get more creative with and have more fun, basically. You're not so stiff and tight with everything. All right, so now I'm just basically going to lay in some more color here for this road. I know I've got those tree shadows that I can kind of drag across with some of this pink. I'm going to kind of pay attention to where this one's going. It kind of comes across. It kind of goes up here. Then I've got a little bit more of that back in there. Let me get the general road in first. Again, this is a really big brush. And this is what I was saying before about instead of trying to paint these trees so sparsely, let's go ahead and get in some big shapes here. I know there's a general hole in here, and then when we add the sky holes, it'll be a lot more interesting and it won't look like just little skinny tree branches. It'll have more movement and beauty to it. Okay, so there's that. Now, I'm gonna lighten this up a little bit. See how with these things you can really get a good idea of where things are. All right, so now let me see if I can just drag some of these shadows. If I get some of this pink here, let's see if it'll work. Oh, I got too much water down. I'll do that with the pastels. I'm getting a little bit of an idea, there we go, of it, but not too much. And these are squiggly, okay? Just kind of squiggly. Further down. Okay, and then we got a lot of shadows going back there. Okay, so we've got a basic underpainting done now, and we can get going. Wasn't that fun? All right, so I'm holding the camera by hand to show you this hopefully a little more close up. These are the colors I'm beginning with, and I just kind of wanted to break it down for you. I typically pick out my lightest light and my darkest dark first. So I knew that sky was the lightest, and I like in my sky to not have one color. I've got some lighter values down at the back of the road, just above where the distant trees are. But the sky is, and I'm going to keep this kind of true to the photo as far as local color, choosing colors. Of course, I exaggerated in areas, but the sky was a little bit cyan. I thought a little bit more teal blue rather than purple blue, but I wanted to also add in a little bit of lavender. If I just had all of this, it would be a little bit, so I like to use that broken color by adding in something else. It just makes it a little more interesting. Then my darkest darks over here, sorry for the shadow, I didn't want to go dark right away because I may accentuate that later, but this is kind of a dark blue, purple blue kind of, and a dark kind of brick magenta burgundy kind of a color. It actually looks lighter in this video than it does with my real eyes. Then I knew, of course, I have got some colors in the road. There's some lighter colors in the road, of course, so I'm going to play around with those. I've got my once I get the darks down for the trees, that darkest value, I've got to lay something on top of it to emulate those trees. And I've got some, there's a video I want to do. I actually need to start doing more of this myself in my own painting. I want to do something called the power of neutrals. Notice how all these colors are a little bit more neutral, a little more dead, not as punchy as some of these other ones are. So these I'm going to use for some of those shadow sides of the trees. like in here, okay? And these I'm going to use a little bit more for some of the distant trees that are far away. We know things get lighter in the distance. These are more of my punchy colors that I'm going to use for some of those sparkly sunlight on the grass. And these are going to be kind of for the shadows that are in the road. I've got to put down a dark first. And then, like I said, those shadows have a lot more color in it than just like a black or dark charcoal or whatever. So there's the general idea. I may add a few, but I do kind of want to keep these simple. And these are a variety of pastels that I've accumulated over the years. I do recommend, if you're just getting started, it's great to buy sets that are half sticks, if you can. Sennelier makes half sticks. Let me think, does Rembrandt? I think Rembrandt might. They're a medium hardness pastel. And I believe Jack Richardson makes half sticks. You get more bang for your buck that way. You get a lot more colors to play with and don't have to spend a fortune. We know these are expensive. But these are the Terry Ludwigs that are square. They're the real softies. I believe this one is a Sennelier. I love these pastels. And maybe a Jack Richardson. So anyway, so just accumulate what you can and gradually your collection will grow. All right, time to paint. Okay, so here we go. Look at that drippy, crazy underpainting, which is kind of cool. And now I'm going to get started again with my darkest dark and my lightest lights. I think I'll go ahead and get my dark in first. Again, these were my two darks here, okay? And all I'm doing is squinting my eyes, looking at the reference photo, and seeing where these are. I'm laying it on the side, and I try to, again, scumbling means turning your pastel this way and that way, and I'm keeping a super, super light touch here, all right? I know there's like there's some bushes like right in the front here, but there's some shadows happening behind those bushes. And it's okay if you cover more than you see, because that can be kind of carved out and layered over with other values and colors. This I'm still getting some darks in. I'm going to use a little bit of this kind of a medium to darker value purple to kind of, it's not quite as dark at the tops of these bushes. I am going to add some green to it, but this is going to kind of make it look like they have a little bit more light on them than the ones way down so deep. So notice I'm not even doing any green yet. Okay, I've got a little bit more of that deeper, there's some trees back here that look like they're dark, but if we want to push them back, we need to not go as dark as that. And then there's some more back here. There's a little layer. Remember I talked about the layers? There's a layer of trees here. And again, this is more of a neutral color. I'm doing that because I don't want that to be the central focus. And there's, I don't want to lose the road. In here, there's a little bit more of that, like right in here. Okay, And then I'm going to go ahead and kind of get a little bit the same thing here. We've got this darker medium to dark value going on down here. We're going to add the greens in here, but it's okay to get that darkest dark. Again, we the darker values down first. Again, in pastel painting, we paint dark to light, and we layer in the lightest colors last. Again, this underpainting is helping me to remember kind of where things are. I've got some shadows going on in here. A little bit more of a edges of grasses right here. And it may look crazy right now. Doesn't it look crazy? And again, we've got some more cooler shadowies crossing here. Same right back in here. Kind of coming down on the bank a little bit where these shadows are. This one kind of comes over like a hump right here and then crosses the road. We can kind of reshape these as we go. You want to get it generally right. Okay, so there's the darks. Now I did want to get in some of this dark. I think things are much more interesting when you have multiple colors of darks. And because this tree right in here, I can't tell in the photo, it looks like this one may be a little closer than definitely than these. I probably need to bring the roots down a little more here. Bring it down, or whatever this is, to make it appear closer. And when things are closer, they're usually a little warmer in color temperature. So I'm adding a little bit of this warmth in here. This is warmer, obviously, than the other color I put down. I might add a little bit of that in here. Maybe not as much over here. I want the eye to be drawn in here. All right. Now I think I'll go ahead and start getting in my lightest light. And the reason for that is because everything changes in value and color based on what it's next to. And probably didn't need to add that warm in that. And if I don't get my light down first, I don't have a gauge, a degree between light and dark. So first I'm going to start with this this real teal blue, because I'm gonna layer all over this. This is a little too dark right now, but that's okay. We usually start with this dark. There's a neat little sky hole kind of like back in there. See, I just make a hint. You don't have to make any specific lines or anything. I'm looking at just where the shapes are. I'm kind of turning my pastel, seeing where these little things kind of come and go. May add, I think I have to add some of those different, not so dark, but a kind of a general neutral color for some of these trees before I finish putting these sky holes in or anything. But I like that. I like that. I like this teal color. It's really neat. On that note, I am going to go ahead and add that kind of a, let's see here. I'm going to add it darker than it looks like in the photo. These are those leaf colors that I kind of want to get in, that I'll carve the sky into. Again, it looks like in the reference photo there's a lot of sky with little sparse things, but it's going to look much more artistic if I don't try to make it look like individual leaves, but more like there's a little bit of that color going on back here in these bushes, or whatever they are. It's like a tangle of trees. So we'll carve the sky into this. There's a lot of sky going on here, but that's okay. I can pull that out. And notice I'm scumbling. I am not painting leaves. We do have some of this kind of coming across the road here. I'm going to add some highlights on this. I do want to add a little bit more of these back here, back behind there, but not too much to cover up what's going on right here. We've got on this side, there's a little bit of light hitting here on this grouping of trees. And the difference, I think, between realism and painterly is that with painterly, you just suggest things. You don't make it, you don't go, here, I am a tree, look at me, I'm a road. So it's really best to just suggest, and you have a way of make a point, a central focus, what you want, and then kind of subdue the other things. All right, so let me now go ahead. I think I'll put a little bit more in here and carve that sky out. I wasn't just doing a demo here, I might focus on getting these a little more detailed, but I actually have to go and do something with my mom. This is a lighter value. Actually, let me get some of that purple in that I talked about. This is that purple. Nope, that's too dark of a value. I think I'll just stick with this little lighter teal value down here. So my trees are still there, yeah, a little bit there. A little bit here. I'm looking at where it's lighter in the photo, and it's definitely lighter in this little area down here. And then when I get those other background trees, I can kind of carve down into that. It's a little lighter, like right in here. All right, that's pretty good there. I don't want to get too detailed too quickly. I did have this lavender that I had talked about that I may lighten the sky up a little. Well, I'll just go ahead and do it a little bit right here. Okay, that draws the eye back there with that lighter contrast there. All right, so now I'm going to focus on getting some of these background layers. Remember I talked about the power of neutrals. Let's see, this might not be dark enough. Usually, well, that's a nice color, but I think I need a darker color for those background trees. Yeah, this is kind of, it's not as dark as some of these darks I put down, but it's going to give me a base. I want to remember where my road is. It ends like right about back there. So let me get some of these in, and then I'll add that neutral kind of on top of that. Okay, let's see, how high did that go? Yeah, that's about right. All right, so here's that neutral I talked about, and it might still be too light. I have a neutral that's a little darker than that. So let me try that. It's in between these three. That's a little too green for background. This is the one I think I had. Let me try this one here. I may want to, yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of lightly scumble over this. This is going to push those trees back a little more. I'm still keeping some dark down at the roots, okay? But that kind of gives just a little bit of an indication there. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to get these spaces filled in before I get too fussy on anything. I may take this pipe foam insulation. This isn't the one I normally use, but I found it literally when my husband was working with some pipe foam insulation. I said, hey, I've never had that before. Let me try it. Make sure I'm still recording. Yes, I am. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I don't want this to be the central, it's working, center of interest here. So I'm going to kind of, again, just stumbling in to soften up areas that I don't want the main focus to be on. And I want to be a little cautious of this, not too much. Okay, and that's something you're not supposed to do, is blow on your pastels, but whoops, I did it. Oh, and by the way, my stuff is working here. It did not cover up, it didn't go through there. All right, so now I think I'm going to take, I like that pink showing through, but I'm going to soften this shadow out a little bit right here, and then I'm going to let my greens kind of come through here. I mean, go on top of that as a layer. I think I need another layer of dark right in here to reinforce that. there are a lot of colors in Rhodes. All right, I'm going to work a little bit more seriously on that. Probably not talking so I get it right. Maybe a little more peach in here. The remainder of this demo is going to be sped up a bit. Oh, there's those purple shadows, or purple within the shadows that I talked about. But some of it has to do with the fact that I don't have the fastest Wi-Fi speed where I am right now. And if I get a video much close to an hour or a little over an hour, it just takes forever to get it uploaded. So, but I did want to mention right here that notice that I did add some of those blues, kind of, and I did lighten up those trees with a little bit more of a blue color in the background that pushed them back even further. It's hard to talk this fast. But anyway, just pay attention to some of the things I said before that I was going to do, and enjoy the rest of this. Again, the demos or the critiques that I'm going to be doing on a monthly basis, hopefully a monthly basis, is just going to be for my patrons. And I wanted to add that I probably will still share the video of the painting and some of the suggestions on the Monet Cafe YouTube channel, but I won't choose anyone's work to critique unless you are a patron. And very soon, probably tomorrow, I'm going to be doing the drawing for the prize, since we made it to 100 patrons on my Patreon page, and everyone up to the point of the drawing will have a chance to win. So if someone becomes a patron today before I do the drawing, everyone will be in the drawing. So, and again, the winner will receive a choice of one of my paintings. I've picked out about 4 for you to choose from. They'll also win a copy of my book, The Mountain Queen, which is a children's book. I think it's for any age, really. And also a $50 gift card for Dick Blick Art Supplies. And that will happen tomorrow, I hope. And everything's going great with my mom. Thank you guys for your prayers. She is in some of the yucky part of the radiation right now. And but still, everything's going great, and we feel very hopeful. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of this demo. And I really hope these critiques are going to be something that will help everyone, not just the artist that I did the critique for. So please, I love your feedback. I love your comments. That's how I know what to do. So don't hesitate to give suggestions, or just give me some ideas as to what you would like to see. All right, guys, I hope you enjoy, and I'll be back at the end for some comments. wanted to note here at the end, just to kind of reiterate some of the points I made at the beginning. Can you notice how I took those trees that were kind of sparse on the upper right and how I put more of a mass in and carved in the sky holes? I think it made it more interesting. Also notice how I added the blues and the purples in the shadows of the road. And right now it's still a little bit dark, and that was one of my points at the beginning of the video as well, that there was kind of a mass of dark there. So this is what I'm doing here to kind of lighten that up. When things are dark and shadowy, a lot of cool blues kind of give a nice fun and interesting color and can lighten up a big mass of darkness. This is like the tweaking stage. I've got the majority of the painting set now, but adding a few more sky holes. So I'm kind of lightening things up. You also can probably see where I added the bright greens on the grass. Oh, see, now I added a little darker green in there in the shadowy area, but little hints of bright green to indicate where that sun is just hitting those grasses. Again, this sun is being filtered through the trees so that there's only certain parts with that bright light shining on them. So this was a really fun little demo / critique, and I hope you learned a lot, Belle, and also anyone else who watched this video. So I look forward to doing more of these. Stay tuned for the drawing in the competition, hopefully by tomorrow. All right, guys, happy painting.